Here we go, right? 100 years of Memorial Stadium. Evan is going to start our Through These Gates series off with a story about the secrets and the mysteries of Memorial Stadium. You found an interesting nugget from former Director of Facilities John Ingram of what the stadium was supposed to be initially, that kind of thing. And then, Tom, I'd love to talk to you just about the history of the place. But I want to start with you, Evan. Talk a little bit about your story and what you maybe learned about the quirks of that particular stadium.
Yeah, it was a fun story to put together. Went in the spring with John Ingram when he was there. He was kind enough to take me around the area, the facilities, and I think fans generally kind of understand the history of it. But what I was looking for was like, okay, what's something that fans walk by every week, every fall Saturday, and maybe they didn't know the significance of, or maybe there were some small things that they didn't know. So one of my favorites is early in the story about some just initials that are painted onto the concrete wall in one of the ramps, actually many of the ramps, throughout the stadium, because back in the early 1920s, 1923, 1924, the university would pay players in the summer to paint the wood and to do all these things for upkeep. And they would make a habit, the players, of putting their initials in very random places. And I spent some time trying to kind of figure out who maybe some of these mystery initials were, JH and SS and RG. And you can kind of make some guesses on some because they had a lot more nicknames back then than they do now. But stuff like that. There's a 100-year-old dog tracks of a dog that walked through the drying cement back then. There are doors that go nowhere. There are ramps that used to go up to the top level of Memorial Stadium that now just end at the underside of a concrete staircase because they redid the club level. Mm-hmm. So I think ultimately that was one of my bigger takeaways from the event was when you have a stadium that was originally intended to be one way and society changes over the course of 100 years and you have expansions and you have additions and you have renovations. It's this just kind of mishmash of all these different eras, and they make it work, and it's a really cool game day experience. But there are also things that sort of get lost in the shuffle around there. I think the Mushroom Garden area is really interesting. I think that's under the stands, especially there on the east side. Excuse me. And the athletic department has like a little caged bunker of stuff, and I think it would be every Husker fan's dream. They have old traveling trunks and game programs from the 80s. Ingram told a story a number of years ago that he unearthed the Nebraska-Missouri victory bell that was under there. It was Nebraska had won so many years in a row that they had forgotten about it, and it was half buried in the Mushroom Gardens under this bed of crushed brick. So just stuff like that. I think fans will enjoy reading it because, again, a lot of the stuff you can see. You can read the story. You can walk into the stadium on Saturday and just kind of see some of these historically significant things.
They should do a tour of that. I mean, they should offer a tour for people to walk into that stadium and see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love it. You've had a lot of history with that stadium. It has changed in the first time you went to it until now. You covered a lot of games in the old shell. Now, the new shell came in, 94, 95?
98.
98,
yeah.
Okay. I covered a couple games in the old shell when I came to college, but have you seen it change? What do you like about what do you love about the Memorial Stadium?
Well, I love stadiums. I love all stadiums, whether they're new or old. I've always been sort of infatuated or intrigued by the stadiums, and I see them all as a characters in the play, sort of, whether they're new or old. For instance, Rosenblatt versus Charles Schwab, and
Yep.
they each have different characteristics. They're both really good for the fans in their own way. But the college football stadiums are we call them old. The battleships or whatever, the aircraft carriers, whatever you want to call them, these old things, they don't go away because you can't build new stadiums. Colleges, they just cost too much, and people. So you're starting to see it now. Other schools, and Nebraska's going to be one of them, where they have to take an old and they got to make it new somehow, and it becomes a hybrid of old history versus the the party deck. It becomes this thing where you've got to have both. I just love it because it got so much history. I love history, and I love the fact that so much history has happened there. And for the first day I walked up and saw it, I saw that the inscription on the corner pillar. I mean, just can't see it now. You can walk upstairs and it's right there. But it used to be, it was just right before, it was right there. They had that red N on the press box that you used to turn on at night. Every night they had the red on and would like it would flash red. It would turn on. They turned the light on. And it was every night you saw that red N on stadium. And but I just love. I felt like the stadium has a lot of stories to tell. A lot has happened there, and to me the best part about these things is. And especially Nebraska Stadium, every game there, it feels like a big game because so many big games have happened there. So many things have happened. You walk in there and go, okay, yeah, this team may not be very good, but what am I going to see today? What am I going to watch? And that's part of the experience. And it's just Nebraska. It's one of the best stadiums. It's Oklahoma's, they've turned it into this thing, and Nebraska they have too, to a certain extent, where it doesn't look like it used to, but it still feels the same. I think the stadium's all about feel too. I'm excited about this season. I love these stories that Evan's writing, and I love I've got memories from fans. I'm gonna write about that later, and we have other stories planned. But the thing it's become too easy to come in there and win for opponents. And the Nebraska Stadium, the Memorial Stadium, used to be one of the players. It used to be part of the team. It was a significant part of every game where opponents walked in there going, "Holy crap! I can't. This is. I'm not sure we can do this." Now they don't do that. But at some point, Memorial Stadium was going to help you win a game. And they need to get back to that. And that's all about the team, the coaches, and, recruiting and all that stuff. But at some point, they've got the right stage. And I think whatever they do to it in the South Stadium, however they do it, they got the right AD who knows what that stadium needs to be. And I think that they've got a coach who is going to also embrace it and not look at it like it's something that he doesn't care about. Mm-hmm. I think they will care about it. And I saw the new gates are up. They're going to be a new tunnel walk coming out of the northeast on Saturday night. So I took a picture of it. I might share it later, but it's kind of interesting. They're in their new locker room, and so they're going to come out of that new gate. And I was trying to think. I wonder if they've come out of all four tunnels. I think that they used to come out of the southwest tunnel.
They did
for years. They came out of that southwest tunnel.
Yep.
I remember the first game I covered there, the '78 Missouri game. Missouri's locker room was in the southeast tunnel. That was where their locker room was. So I don't think Nebraska would have come out of there. I wonder if Nebraska ever came out of that southeast. If they did, then they came out of all four. But I don't know. They used to, after they practiced, they used to go into the southeast tunnel. That's how they walked into the locker room.
They did.
And but they never came. I don't think they ever came out of there unless it was, the Devaney years or whatever. But
to come out of the locker room, turn left, and go down the tunnel walk for the game. They always had a walk versus coming right to the sideline.
Right.
That's what's interesting about this tunnel walk on Saturday is they're gonna be on their own sideline side, And so what I'm curious to see
Right.
is if they run out to midfield around a curve and then to the sideline, or do they
I
just
bet-
sort of jog to the sideline? You know,
I
don't
bet
know.
they. I bet they. Well, they always have like the band or or somebody's out there
Yeah.
showing them the way. They run through like a, I don't know what you call it, human
A corridor,
tunnel.
yeah.
Little pathway.
Yeah, corridor.
Not quite a T.
I think
at
that's
Tennessee.
gonna. I think that'll still be there to weed them out to midfield, and then they kind of run back. So.
Do you have a favorite game? And I know you're going to talk more about this, but just like, or a game that is like
I'm
this
going to
is
rank my
Memorial
moments at
Stadium.
some point, but some of the big moments are the tunnel walk after the first game after 9/11.
Yeah.
That's maybe number one. We'll see. The volleyball's top 5,
Yeah, that
maybe
was
top
cool.
2 or 3. I mean,
Yeah, that was great.
but I have to think about it, man. Yeah,
Isn't
there's
that interesting that like two of the best moments are not related to like really to Husker football?
Right.
The 9/11 thing was very, oh man, that was
Powerful.
tough. That was a really tough. It was great, but it was tough. Yep, I remember that really well.
I just think any big game there, you remember how you felt when you were there, and so I'll probably think about those as opposed to the time they played K-State or when some of those games in the '80s. But yeah, I mean, so like any Oklahoma game, even if it's Buster Rhymes running on the sideline, he's breaking your heart, you still remember it.
Sure.
But I don't know. I'll think about that. I mean.
My grandpa's favorite memory was the Alabama win when they 31-24.
77.
77.
Yeah.
Sam,
And
you,
he wasn't from Nebraska, but he was a Nebraska, like Iowa Nebraska fan. Yeah, he was at that game.
you've seen a lot of stadiums too, Sam. What characteristics are unique or distinct, do you think, to Memorial Stadium compared to all the other places you've
The
been?
incongruity of it.
Yeah.
All 4 sides are different. They are. Like
That's
you
right.
know, very few stadiums are like that. Michigan is symmetrical. Ohio State isn't. Penn State is similar to Nebraska in that each side is different.
Oh yeah.
So Nebraska is that it's different, like that there's a different side to it. And outside, each side of that stadium is different. So if you go to the north side, you go to North Stadium, it's the statue. On the east side, it's all the wealthy boosters and some of the academic leaders, and it's very festive over there. I actually like the east side. South side, there's not much going on
No.
anymore. And then the west side is, I always think of that. What's the name of the place that cooks the burgers? You can smell them. Right there outside the media entrance.
The Husker Burger.
Yeah.
Well, that's gone now because of COVID, but there's a new one.
Yeah. I think of that. I think of smelling that and, the band coming down. So.
What I want to know is, and maybe this is part of your story. I don't want to, steal any thunder here, but why there? Why was it built there? I mean, and 1923 we're talking about. What was the city of Lincoln like? Was the city of Lincoln there in that spot? And was the campus, I assume, was there?
Your lead addresses some of that.
Oh, well, I don't want to.
And Henry's story
Well-
Henry Cordes is writing a story next week about
Because
this.
it's an unusual place for a college football stadium to be. Not many stadiums are right next to downtown like this.
Right.
One, it's almost part of downtown.
Right.
And so, how did that work? And because what? And why was it not somewhere else?
Good point.
I don't know that. I know it initially took up 4 city blocks, and it was pressed up on from all sides by the neighborhood in North Lincoln, and they spent the city and the university spent a number of years trying to buy up those spots north of where like North Stadium is now and the Hawks Center where Buck Belzer was. Like they spent a long time, Schulte, trying to buy up those spots. So I don't know why specifically that spot was chosen initially. Maybe you do, Sam, but really, just interesting time too, because when you looked at the groundbreaking, it was a mix of horse pulled, hose or whatever, and machinery. So like just a really interesting snapshot in time as well.
We're just thinking about all the places we've been to and all the stadiums we've seen. Now, not many campuses are right next to the downtown. But if you go to Ames, you're not, Iowa State campus is not next to downtown Ames. Missouri isn't. I mean, same thing. KU is over here. I mean, everything is.
Right.
But Nebraska, you're right downtown.
Wisconsin's
And-
the same.
yeah.
Wisconsin's like Nebraska in that way.
Right.
That way.
But there aren't many like that, and you just wonder. Okay, I guess I'd like to go. I don't want to go back to 23 necessarily, but what was it like? What did downtown look like? I'm sure somebody's got a photo somewhere of what the whole thing looked like back then, because why was the campus right by downtown? Why wasn't it over farther west or east? I don't know, but.
Yeah.
So I think about that kind of stupid stuff, but I love stadiums, and this is one of my favorite. And that day, that I know brings back painful memories to people. Painful. That 78 Missouri game, everything was just perfect. The weather, the cold temperatures, gray skies, this inscription, punching me in the head, but not the goal, but the game, and the deed, the glory.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like I was walking into a church, or some, you know what I mean?
I do.
It was like a
Does feel like that,
or
for
some
sure.
kind of thing back in like ancient Rome.
Yep.
You felt like you were. This is special.
Yeah.
And not every stadium's got one of those.
No.
And so you walk in, and the game's great, and the crowd's unbelievable. It's just, it all comes together in Nebraska. And the stadium, I think it's been the absolute perfect stage for everything. And you just need to win and get that back a little bit. I think I don't think changing this stuff in the next year or two, and we'll have time to talk about this too. What do you do in the meantime when you've got to put people out of their seats, and it's going to take more than just a few months to get that stuff done? They can't leave the stadium for a season, but obviously part of the stadium is going to have to be, I guess, you can't use some of the seats. So
Right.
how's that going to work? Is it going to be next season or 2 years or anyway?
That's a great question. We'll they're not quite. They're going to explore that in October with the regions and all the rest.